Seahawks fans, wherever you may be. Thanks for listening to the show. Join your hosts, Bill Alvstad and Keith Myers, as we talk Seahawks football. Hey, Seahawks fans. Welcome back to another episode of the Seahawks Playbook podcast. I'm your host, Bill Alvstad, sitting down with Keith Myers, here to talk Seahawks football and preview the Cardinals visiting the Seattle Seahawks this Sunday at Lumen Field. Welcome in, Keith.
Yeah, thanks. This will be this is an important game. It should be a get right game for Seattle, and hopefully they'll be able to take advantage of a lesser team and get some things figured out.
Yeah. Well, that's always the plan when you're facing the Cardinals, and somehow they end up being closer games than usual. Lots of injuries happen in the past in these stupid games, and so I'm hoping for the best. Injury-free game, and Seattle to dominate, which we do occasionally against the Cardinals, but sometimes they're just super close for some reason. I don't know. Cardinals come in 1-5 though. Seahawks are 3-2. I would argue the Cardinals are slightly better than their 1-5 record. I would argue the Seahawks are slightly better than their 3-2 record. Clearly the more talented team this year, Seattle. The Cardinals lost Kyler Murray last season, late in the year, and coming off an ACL, actually entered back into the practice protocol this week for them, a 21-day window where he can become activated onto the 53-man roster. Very unlikely to play this weekend, but he practiced and took first-team reps this week with the team. So they want to make that transition as quickly as possible. Joshua Dobbs is their quarterback, who's been struggling as of late. Started out pretty strong. He's kind of an athletic guy. Not many starts in his career. I've always liked kind of his upside. I thought he might be a good fit in this offense for them. Turns out he is a pretty decent fit, but he just doesn't have any talent around him. They've got a couple of good wide receivers. Their offensive line struggles. Their defense struggles. Just really a talent deficit there for them. Always thought that they were going to be a top 5 pick in next year's draft. And that's kind of where they sit.
Yeah. I mean, Dobbs played pretty well in their first 4 games, but the last 2 have been pretty bad and, pretty poor performances for him. I think that's probably why Arizona's excited to have Kyler Murray back, just if nothing else, to give them a boost, give them a lift. I think that Dobbs is overall for the year played all right. And he's played hard. The team's played hard for their coach. I can maybe disagree with you a little bit on saying they're better than their 1-5 record. I think they want you to believe that because they're playing really hard and still coming up short in every game except for the one kind of fluky game against Dallas. But in every other game, I mean, they haven't been close. Every game's been by 10 points or more, every other loss.
Well,
so
here's my read, and let me know if you agree or disagree. This is a pretty decent scripted team in the first half of games. They play teams fairly close in the first half, and then down the stretch, teams go into the locker room, adjust against them. They don't have any answers. Talent wins in the end, and teams tend to pull away from them, and they start pressing, making mistakes, etc. They go away for their run game. Connor's out now on IR, and they really don't have much behind that, so they're one-dimensional, and they kind of then Dobbs just isn't enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's not the type of player that's going to just take over a game like that.
Not with this roster.
Not with this roster. But yeah, the last couple games have been kind of tough for him, and a lot of that has to do with the breakdown of the running game. And he's been at 47% and 51.2% for completion percentage the last 2 games. 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions total.
add a couple
combined,
of fumbles lost in that equation as well.
Combined passer rating 58.1.
That's not going to win any games.
So I mean, like I said, he's been kind of bad the last couple of weeks, but before that, he played pretty well.
Yeah, in the last couple of weeks, they've faced the Rams, lost to the Rams 26-9. Before that, it was the Bengals, who Seattle just faced. They lost 34-20. 49ers beat them 35-16. Again, those are games that were marginally close in the first half, but those teams ended up winning by double digits at the end of the day. And that's kind of what I expect out of this game. You'd mentioned kind of a get-right game. Yeah, absolutely. Seattle's pass rush, I think, is a key to this game. Uchenna Nwasu, Derek Hall, Boye Mafe, Darrell Taylor, Jerron Reed, creating pressure. Boye Mafe is playing possibly the best out of that entire bunch, coming on as a second-year pass rusher for this team. 3 sacks, you mentioned it in the last show, in the last 3 weeks. And Seattle has a 31.2 pressure rate per drop back in the NFL, which is third in the NFL overall. And that's after posting a 5% pass pressure rate in the first game against the Rams. So really kind of coming on as a team overall, and then adding the full strength of their secondary, getting Adams back, I think is an underrated get back for this team. He seems to be playing very well, and played over 80% of the snaps in this last game. And then we've got Woolen, and Trey Bound is playing well, and Witherspoon. This defense is really starting to come together. I'm kind of excited about it, and should show up really well at home against a very poor offensive Cardinals team for sure.
Yeah, especially without Connor. With Connor banged up and not playing there, that offense it's gonna struggle. I mean, he was a big part of everything they did.
Very big part. 6th in the NFL in rushing before he went out.
Yep. And I mean, he only had 6 rushes against Cincinnati before getting banged up, but he was averaging 7.7 yards per carry over those. So that gives you an idea of the type of impact he's had. But you watched them play against LA this last week, and it got ugly fast, that offense.
Mm-hmm.
They really
now really Joshua Dobbs is their leading rusher. Essentially, they've got a couple of guys who haven't had a lot of experience in the NFL, getting a majority of their running back rushing touches right now, but really not a threat from anywhere on the field, especially with Seattle leading the NFL in rush defense. I don't know how they're gonna do it. I mean, Josh Dobbs averages about 6 yards a carry, and that's their kind of positives on offense, really. On defense, they've got a nice little pass rush. Their defensive line and pass rush is probably their team's strength, if you want to call it that. 18 sacks on the season, tied for 9th in the NFL. So they can get it done, getting to the passer, just not consistently. And Seattle's really been able to be effective, other than last game, at the pass rush this season, allowing Geno Smith to have time to get to his receivers, which I think is another key to this game. Is Geno Smith having a bounce back game? Last game just wasn't
bounce back game. Yeah,
it just wasn't it for him. And this team wants to go somewhere in the playoffs this year. They're going to have to win solid against teams they should beat, and this is definitely one of those situations. But I do believe that Geno should have a good game, and the wide receivers, and Jigba should have a breakout game today or on Sunday. Metcalf should have a strong showing. Tyler Lockett, Noah Fant, Kobe Parkinson, Walker out of the backfield. They've just got a ton of weapons. I don't see Arizona having any answers to any of that. So I think it's just a matter of really executing the game plan, following the script, generating a couple turnovers, especially on the back end with our secondary, forcing Dobbs, to hurry his throws, get off of his timing, disrupt routes. And I think that's definitely the formula for this game, and really kind of get that running game going with Ken Walker and hopefully a little bit more of Charbonnet too. I'd like to see that.
Yeah. Interestingly, defensively, they have 9 different players with at least 1 sack. That's
on the Cardinals.
On the Cardinals. Now, I mean, they've got 2 players with 3 or with 3 or more. So it's not like they have like a last year's Philadelphia Eagle team as far as a pass rush, but 9 different guys have gotten to the quarterback already to this year. I found that to be kind of interesting because that means that they're mixing things up. They're blitzing guys from different angles and different spots and really, not just relying on a couple of guys, which they can't really do. They don't have the talent to just be like, hey, Zaven Collins, go take over this game and dominate. Right. They don't have the guys to pull that off.
Yeah. I've always liked Kaiser White. They've got Josh Woods. You mentioned Zaven Collins, Kevin Strong, Leaky Fotu, Jonathan Ledbetter. That's it. I mean, they've got Dante Stills actually coming on now. He was a late round draft pick in this draft, playing defensive tackle for them. And they really like him, but he's playing about 50% of the snaps right now. He should be playing about 30%. So he's kind of wearing down. Effective earlier in games, later in games, he's not really a factor. And that kind of goes for everybody. This could be a game, Keith, and I wanted to run this by you. This could be a game where Joshua Dobbs fails to kind of get the Arizona Cardinals going in the first half, and they replace him after half with Clayton Tune. This is a rookie that they drafted, I think in the 6th round or 7th round. And they haven't seen any action from him yet. And it's that time of the year. They're 1-5. They know that Kyler Murray may be coming back in 2 or 3 weeks. And just to give this kid a look on a team that's not going anywhere this year. Yeah,
I mean, if you're in a spot where you've only got probably a 2-week window left before Kyler Murray comes back, this is going to be your opportunity. If you want to get a little bit of an eval on what Tune is and whether he's going to be a guy that you want around even as a backup long term, you're running out of time to test that out. And at 1-5, you're not going anywhere. Even if Murray comes back and plays great, in a couple of weeks they'll probably be 1-7, and their season's already over. And so I agree. I think that for them getting a chance to get Tune in there now, what could also be said is that if the Seahawks offense sputters as it has this season a little bit, and Arizona's close, well, that coaching staff might see, hey, maybe we can get an upset. Maybe we can, can steal a game here. And then that would totally throw that Clayton Tune argument out. It really comes down to, it's not just that Dobbs has to not get the offense going, but Seattle's offense has to move a little bit. If they're up by, 14 at halftime, we could see Clayton Tune in the second half.
Interesting. Okay, so injury-wise, Seattle's in really pretty decent shape. They just had a final injury report come out, really just kind of a game status report with 5 players as questionable, but no doubtfuls, no out players as far as projecting to game time. So Zach Charbonnet, Jake Curhan, DK Metcalf, Evan Brown, and Phil Haynes all have little nicks, cuts, and scrapes, but nothing looks like that would keep them out of playing. I think that's good news. I think my worst fear was that Zach Charbonnet wouldn't be available, and if anything happened to Walker, our run game would be toast, and they could just pin their ears back on Geno. But having him in there is good. Jake Curhan, I'm just not sure, Keith. We saw him being less and less effective over the weeks, and then turned that ankle last week and just really was kind of bad. And to have him available and ready to go, I'm just not sure how I feel about that. But, the more the merrier as far as, if he's ready to go, I think that adds continuity to the line. If you're going to play him against the Cardinal team, and I think we're still going to be okay. Everyone else seems to be ready to go, including Evan Brown and Phil Haynes.
Yeah, I'm curious as to how the offensive line snaps work out, because you've got a surprising number of guys healthy after them being super not so throughout the early part of this season so far. So Anthony Bradford's been good. Does the team leave him there, or now that Phil Haynes is healthy and stuff, does he end up taking some of that?
How can you take Anthony Bradford out?
I don't think you can. I mean, he's the future of that spot, and he's been great.
Playing really well.
Yeah, he's been great. So I think he's earned the ability to stay in there.
He's been the second best offensive lineman so far in 2023.
Behind Evan Brown.
Evan Brown.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think there's much of an argument. Like, who else are you going to put?
That's my point, really. Who else are you going to put? Where do you think the Seahawks have clear advantages in this game, and what should they be doing to exploit those advantages? Well,
they've got clear advantage of Seattle's wide receivers versus Arizona's cornerbacks. With Budda Baker still out with his injury, it doesn't look like he's going to play this week. Tyler Lockett should just have a field day against this team.
Arizona Cardinals are 22nd in passing yards allowed per game this season, allowing 243 yards per game through the air.
And that's with the other teams being up on them all the time and running the ball a lot. So yeah, there's
this could be a 350-yard game by Geno, but again, maybe not. If they get up early, they could kind of slow this thing down and have our running game, take over, and we could have a really nice balanced attack.
Ken Walker getting 125 yards and Charbonnet getting, 65 yards, like combination.
Yep. And Geno have 225 or whatever and 3 touchdowns, and
yeah. I mean, it really could be that kind of game, because if Arizona can't move the ball at all, and Seattle's got a lead, run the clock out, and I could totally see them doing that.
Do you have a worst fear in this game?
Well, it's Arizona, and anytime you play Arizona and you're Seattle, you fear nasty injuries and fluky random crap. And that's the fear.
Kind of playing into that, I think that you take a look at that pass rush, which I think is their best strength, coming in with 18 sacks, and the way that we performed last week, and then having Jake Curhan come back, maybe not being 100% available, and they go ahead and put him in there. And they end up getting busy on us in the pass rush and disrupt timing and all that kind of stuff. Get to Geno a couple times, maybe poke the ball out, generate a turnover or two, and we don't get any. And it kind of flips the script a little bit on this thing. They get lucky. They, they run a flea flicker or whatever, it works. Anything can happen in the NFL. Mm-hmm. That's my worst fear in this game, is just the team. They outperform expectations. They come in, they punch the ball out. We get a turnover. They score. We're playing from behind. It's just kind of, that would be disastrous for me. I don't see that happening, but
yeah, I don't either. But it's Arizona.
Right.
Playing against Arizona when you're the Seattle Seahawks is weird stuff happens. There's going to be a fake punt or a fake field goal, and there's going to be some weird, crazy turnover, or some random rule that we forgot existed is somehow going to rear its head. It's just what happens every time that Arizona's on the schedule.
Playing a team that has nothing to lose is a scary thing.
Yeah.
So you just got to go take care of business.
Yep.
I mean, really, as long as Seattle takes care of business, plays up to their level, not to Arizona's, I think we railroad this team. I think we're a 3-score win. Is that rare in the NFL? Yeah, it is rare. But also, Arizona Cardinals are debatable one of the bottom 3 teams in this NFL. Chicago, Arizona, Denver. And then that's it. And Seattle's a top 10 team. And we should be winning this game handily. And that would be my prediction too. I mean, if we're I don't know, if I don't have a heck of a lot to add to this show, and we can just talk about some general things or whatever. But if we were going to do predictions, I would say that Seattle is clearly able to put up 30 points on this team. Mm-hmm. Other teams have successfully put up a lot of points on them. Conversely, Arizona has a hard time scoring the ball. They just do. And so you could easily see this being like a 35-17 type score. I could also see it being 27-23 or 17-13, some ridiculous score. We've had scores like that before against this team when we had really good offenses when Russell Wilson was here. 9-9 ties and all that kind of crap. So that's my prediction, is this kind of a runaway victory.
So one of the things I was looking at in this is Arizona has a total of 7 points in the fourth quarter this season.
Wow. That's a great little find.
Wow. They are a very good second quarter team. They've scored in double digits.
Aren't they the best in the NFL?
That I don't know.
I think I know saw that in a little little blurb at the bottom of the screen in their last game.
They've scored double digits in the second quarter in every game except for the LA game this last week. And then in this third quarter, they've scored 8 points once. Every other game, it's been 6 or less in the third quarter. And in the fourth quarter, they've scored 7 points total.
So when I opened the show and I talked about teams making adjustments on them at halftime, is that what that is?
That's what that is. That's a team that knows their script, and they know those 15, 20 plays that they script at the beginning, and they've executed them and practiced over and over and over again, and they're ready. And then as soon as the script ends or they go off script, they're just not good enough. That without that extremely accurate precision on every step and everything, they just aren't good enough. And the offense falls apart, and that's what happens.
Interesting. So what are you expecting on Sunday?
I'm expecting Arizona to keep it close in the first half. I actually am. I'm thinking that it's going to be like 14-13 Seattle at halftime. It's going
to be so frustrating.
And Keith, it's going to be frustrating as hell. And then in the second half, it ends up being like 31-16 because Seattle just pulls away in the second half and Arizona does nothing and can't keep up. But I expect the first half to be really freaking frustrating.
That also points to a depth issue with them. Mm-hmm. Their front end starters are decent, can hang with teams. Their pass rush is good in the first half, and then just bleeds out. They bleed out. They don't really have anybody. They lose all their stamina and just can't hang, like you said.
Yeah, if you look at the snap counts for their starters on the defensive line, they're getting way too many snaps. Defensive linemen on really good defenses tend to play about 60 to 65% of snaps. That's it. Because otherwise they're not fresh enough to be effective. And Arizona's starters have been playing 78%, 75%. If you go down the list, like their front four is getting just too many snaps. They don't have the depth.
So the Cardinals have 117 points for and 162 points against. They're 20th in the NFL in scoring, 27th on defense. The Seahawks, we kind of saw the floor of the Seahawks offense against the Bengals. Just kind of not being able to put it all together, really struggling on third down again, and struggling in the red zone. The 17-13 loss to the Bengals was it. 6 points after the opening drive, 3 points with an interception in the last 4 trips in the red zone. But the Seahawks are 8th in points per game and 5th in points per play. That's points to a really decent team.
Mm-hmm.
And the Seahawks only allowed 214 yards against the Bengals. And I am actually expecting them just to have a complete game for the first time this season, both on offense and defense. I think that they're embarrassed, they're upset. There's a few players that are that have a lot of pride on this team, and biggest of all is Geno Smith. And I think that he wants to come out and show that he's still the guy. And so I fully expect them to put a complete game on. I think the defense is ready to kind of just turn it loose. And this is one of those teams where you kind of are able to do that. I think that, you'll see some blitzes, you'll see some exotic packages, you'll see them rushing they'll shut down the run if there is any attempt to run with them, and maybe generate a turnover or two and have that offense really rolling and just kind of pull away from this team. And I think they need that as far as a confidence builder. I know it's just Arizona, but I think I'd like to see them put a complete game together.
Yeah, I agree. And then that's one of those things like we've had there was a couple games where the defense didn't play as well as we thought they would, but the offense, did their part. This last week, the defense was freaking amazing and the offense looked terrible. I want to see, I agree. I want to see them put a full game together. The other thing I want to see, and I'm actually kind of scared that we won't, is a game in which DK Metcalf keeps his head on straight and doesn't get taken out of the game mentally. We've seen a lot of that this year, a lot of problems with dumb penalties and stupid hits against guys that draw flags that you're like, why are you even touching him? That kind of stuff.
You want a good laugh?
Okay.
DK Metcalf has more penalties, 17, than D. Eskridge has receptions in the NFL, and has been penalized for more yards than D. Eskridge has in yards gained as a pro.
That doesn't surprise me. Neither of those, because D. Eskridge has never played. He's been in 2 games.
And he should be back and available, right? At some point, right?
Yeah, we got about 1 week left.
One more week. Okay. I'm just, I kid, because we have fun once in a while on the show, but I'm kind of actually looking forward to D. Eskridge, and some weird kind of, I don't know. I root for players because they're Seahawks. And I know that he's struggled, and he's certainly doesn't have a great reputation as being available and making an impact and playing way below his draft grade. But I still want the guy to succeed, and so it'd be kind of fun to see him out there. Okay, so we're going to play a game on Sunday. You think it's going to be a double-digit pull-away win as well?
I do.
I do too. We were wrong last game in our prediction. I don't think we're going to be wrong this game. I think that this is it.
We were wrong last game. I think the defense did what we expected them to do. The offense just
even better. They outperformed what we expected.
Yeah. The offense just didn't do their part. It really just didn't play well.
Yeah. And then, so after the game, enjoy the game. I don't think we're going to record it after the game. At least we haven't talked about it yet. We'll come back on Monday, Tuesday at the latest, and rehash the game a little bit, talk about what went right, what went wrong, hopefully a win, and our standing in the NFC West. We're still trying to keep up with the 49ers. 49ers did lose. It'd be nice for us to stick close and potentially get a couple of those games against them and kind of turn this conference around a little bit. I don't know if it's going to happen this year. It's kind of nice to root for a team in Seattle that's not only rebuilding but winning at the same time, which is really hard to do. It's hard yet to tell. I don't think we've seen so far the complete identity of this team this season. So it's hard for me to kind of project like how far this team could go this year. I think the sky's still the limit, but they've got some work to do. And this is kind of one of those games where you kind of like to see them kind of put it all together. And like we talked about. So, all right. Anything else, Keith?
No, I think that's it. Let's just go get a win. I mean, this is a bad team that the Seahawks are playing. It is a divisional team, which, as we've been saying, weird things happen in divisional games, but they're not a good team. They're not a talented team. Go get a win. Don't screw this up, Seattle.
Yeah, a division team, another incentive to win. So, all right, let's get out of here. Find Keith on Twitter at Myers NFL. You can find me at NWCHawk. The show is on every major podcast platform. Hit that subscribe button when you find it, and our own YouTube channel. When you find it on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. Make sure you get your videos and your audio in your feed every week. We do 2 or 3 shows a week, 365 days a year, 52 weeks a year, I should say. And yeah, it's a good show. We've been around a little bit, as you can see by our episode count. It's up to 504. So I hope you give us a listen and enjoy the show. And we'll talk to you next time. Take care. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Seahawks Playbook podcast listeners, thanks for joining us for another edition of the show. You can find us on Twitter. Bill is at NWCHawk, Keith is at Myers NFL, and the show is at Hawks Playbook. You can listen and subscribe to the show at SeahawksPlaybook.com.